We're here to talk about some silly things. Each of us has a story to tell from history. It could be true, it could be not. We'll see. So, shall we just go with the normal order that we seem to have been going in these past few weeks?
Yeah. Don't broke, don't fix it. Go.
All right then. Well, I guess I'm first. So my story is from a long time ago, from ancient Rome.
I thought you were about to say in a galaxy far, far away.
Sadly not. That would be a difficult story to prove. Yeah, so basically, people all throughout history have wanted to learn how to fight. That's generally why people have martial arts classes. They learn karate and all this stuff. Martial arts have been very popular pastimes for many, many years. Quite a lot of the time in the past, people would sell books and scrolls and stuff with like illustrated fighting techniques on them. They were very popular. They're good for entertainment, and some people tried them out for real. So this is basically about one example of this. So this is a fragment of a scroll, because scrolls don't necessarily survive that well. But we got a fragment of a scroll, and it's an illustrated picture of a fighting technique. Basically details the use of sandals in armed fighting. So in the illustration, bear with me. It shows a guy has two sandals in his hand, and the bad guy has a sword. And in the picture, he's in one sandal, he's trapped the sword in the leather straps, and then he's got it stuck there. So he's got the sandal stuck in the sword, and he's controlling the sword in his right hand. And his left hand, he slaps the face of the bad guy with the other sandal.
Do you have a picture to show us?
I'm afraid not. If I
It's not because this is bullshit.
If I showed the picture, it might give the game away. So
because there's no picture, that's why. Because if it nah.
So it's thought that this scroll was written by an old retired gladiator. Whether it was illustrated by him, it could be a copy of the manuscript. But the name Quintus Thrax is seen on the where the bottom of the scroll would be.
I think I'm gonna have to resort to the old saying: "If there's no photo, it didn't happen."
I can't share the photo. If I shared a photo, it would give it away.
You should have done your story about a photo then. It's pretty stupid, Mr. Gray.
Oh, you'll just have to ask me questions instead.
Okay, what is on the photo exactly?
Well, it's not a photo. It's a scroll.
A drawing.
Drawing. It shows, like I said, it shows two guys. One of them using sandals to fight, and the other guy using a sword.
And then no other details that are fun to point out about it now.
Well, there are like little bits written below it.
What does it look like?
What does it look like? Well, it looks like two guys fighting. One guy using sandals.
Written below it. What does the words look like?
I think it's written in Greek.
Okay, well, just call it a few letters there.
It's Greek, but
you don't know a few Greek letters, no?
No, it is written below. What is there's a caption here with the translation of it, and it just says sandal and strike. So
sandal and strike.
There
was a lot of answer for that sandal and strike there.
But I had to scroll down. I had to scroll back up again.
Wait, what's the TrueorFalse?
Does this thing exist? Basically, is there an ancient fighting manual of a man teaching how to fight with sandals against a man with a sword?
So it's not that the guy actually did this?
Oh no, well no, there wouldn't be a record of a man actually fighting off somebody with sandals. That would actually be quite amazing.
And I take it the idea is to get the sword between the two ends of the sandal or something. I don't know.
Yeah, it looks like the sword has been like imagine stabbing with the sword, but you stab into the straps on the sandal. So your sword's stuck in leather, and then you kind of squeeze your sandal's ruined basically, but it saved your life because it's deflected the sword, and then you slap him with the other sandal.
Yeah, across the face like a bitch.
Yeah.
This would be great if you had a photo. I'm gonna say false.
Oh, Mr. Red.
I'd say he has a photo of this, but it's nothing to do with the story. Is that what this is, Mr. Gray? You do have a photo of a man fighting a man with a sword with his sandals, but is this nothing to do with your technique of sandal slaying?
Was it just like a criminal that was thrown into the gladiator thing? But he was only given sandals as weapons.
It would be pretty cruel if you were thrown into the arena. No, it is from a fighting manual, so it's supposed to show off different techniques that can be used. Whether or not these techniques are any good or useful is a different matter entirely. So, Mr. Black, you're saying false,
Yeah.
and Mr. Red, are you saying false?
I'm going to say you may have a photo about this, but it's nothing to do with ancient Greece or anything like that. It's probably just some guy being a maniac fighting another guy with his sandals. So yeah, I'm gonna go false.
Oh, guys, I can say that it is false completely. There's no maniac beating up a guy with a sword with sandals.
No way.
You don't even have a photo then of a guy beating up a guy with sandals. Okay.
If I can find one, Google images here quickly. You know what? I can't find it. Never mind. Silly idea. Nobody fights with sandals.
If only.
So,
Moving on. This. Next.
Okay. Well, my story takes place during the First World War.
Of course, it
lovely
does.
time.
It's about Captain Robert Campbell.
Oh yeah.
Who was, well, if you want to tell the story, Mr. Black, you go right ahead.
He did something.
Oh, well, true then.
You got me, guys. You got me. True. No, he was captured in France by the Germans and sent to a POW camp.
Aye.
Okay.
Right. So he found out his mother was dying of cancer, and he wrote to the Kaiser, Wilhelm II, to be asked if he could visit his mother before she died. The Kaiser would grant the request under one condition: that he was to return to the POW camp for the rest of the duration of the war.
Okay.
And Captain Campbell was let go. He was released. Went and seen his mother on her deathbed, and then returned to the POW camp as he said he would. And that's basically it. And the TrueorFalse did a British soldier who was captured by the Germans during the First World War get released from a POW camp and to see his sick mother and then return.
Goodness me, it's all a game. It was all a game to the posh guys, wasn't it? All right. So, how did he know the address of the Kaiser?
I'm assuming he wrote a letter. It says to the Kaiser and give it to one of the camp officers, and they said, "I'll make sure this gets to him, sir."
Amazing.
Can you get this then, please? Well, sure.
Have you got a picture of the letter?
I don't know. Do you have a picture of the Greek sandals?
I know the true version of this story, Mr. Gray.
Oh.
He swapped places with his mum, and his mum was like, "Well, I'm down anyway, so I'll just go back to the camp and you run away." He's like, "Okay, cheers." And
yeah, I can imagine that happened, but I don't think his mum was an enemy combatant.
That would have been a very crazy thing to have happened, and I can't imagine that slipping past the guards. How does that work at all? Can I go and see my mum back in England? Yeah, sure. Just take the taxi across no man's land. And then on your way back as well, like he'd have to cross the front twice in that journey.
Sounds totally reasonable to me.
Okay, so how did he make his journey?
I don't know.
His story is so unbelievable. I'm tempted to say true, because if you were coming up with a story on your own, you'd come up with more details than this. Mr. Red, I think you're cleverer than this story. I think I'm going to say true.
You do realize the entire front line during the First World War, it wasn't just one giant trench from coast to coast.
That's what I think I pictured.
Yeah, but I know it wasn't one giant trench, but still, I mean, how would you get from one side to the other?
We have white flags, not meant to shoot you.
I just hope it works, I suppose.
You could go to a town. I'm sure there was still main roads that were accessible, or even parts of the Argonne Forest, potentially.
So this captain got back to England, and when he was in England seeing his mum, and then going back to, well, basically the war zone again, to go back to the prison, at no point was he asked by another British soldier, said, "Oh, where are you stationed?" And he said, "Oh, in the German prison. I'm just on my way back."
Well, he wanted to keep his word. He said he would return, and he wanted to keep his word. And therefore, he did. Just had to hold his white flag up, I imagine.
And then, of course, the Germans would have to believe him. Hey, let's just let him go. He wants to see his dead mum, so yeah, sure, let's just let him out the gate. He can go and get the train across the front. Don't worry, he'll be back later. He won't rejoin the British forces.
I'm going to say true, just for the fact that this sounds too heartwarming of a story for Mr. Red just to come up with.
I'm going to say true, but this is the most stupid story I've ever heard from the war.
Why are you saying true then?
Because it's too stupid for Mr. Red. Mr. Red would come up with a more believable story than this.
Oh.
I'm sure of it.
Mr. Black's just saying true because I'm a heartless bastard.
I didn't say that. It's just a bit too Disney for you, know what I mean? When you return back to camp, they all burst out into a song. Welcome back, welcome back.
Oh, I'm going to change my answer. It's too stupid. It's false. It's got to be.
Oh, now you're saying I'm stupid? Oh, okay.
Well, what is it?
Right, so you're going false then, and Mr. Black's going true.
Aw.
I can tell you it's true.
Oh. There you go.
Please tell me that the prison guard in charge of the German prison camp was court-martialed for that.
No? Well, they would have got the court-martial. He actually got permission from the Kaiser himself, so...
Oh, dear. Kaiser should have been court-martialed for that.
It's a bit sparse on the details about how he, actually made his way back, but, across the front line. But I do imagine it probably took place at a town or something like that, and it would have just been a matter of holding up a white flag, and they probably wouldn't, you're not going to just shoot somebody down.
Then he went back to the prison. I just don't... I mean, there's keeping your word, but that's just silly.
Yeah, but you would just have to explain to whatever officer, what prison camp you came from and stuff, and they would just send you straight back there. But yeah, he was a man of his word, and he went back. He did automatically try to escape after he returned, but I don't think he was successful.
So he asked to go. He asked to leave, to basically go on holiday from the prison, and then he came, and then he went, got permission to go. He came back of his own accord, and then he tried to escape.
As you said, Mr. Gray, it's just a game. It's just a game to the higher ranks.
It really is.
That was even dumber.
He just went on a big adventure, and since he was a captain, he knew nothing bad would happen to him. Anyway, moving on.
Moving on.
Alright, here we go. Oh, back in Tudor England. Don't really know who was around then.
That'd be Henry VIII or Elizabeth I.
Elizabeth. In fact, I remember, the story's about all to do with ale, the drink. I remember Elizabeth actually passed a law. Like, they used to have a thing called double ale, which is like twice as strong as regular ale. And she actually banned that because people just got absolutely wasted.
Do you remember? Was it rough on you back then?
Yeah.
Tough times.
So, excuse me. Back in Tudor England, there were government-appointed officials who held the responsibility of inspecting and upholding regulations on beer or ale throughout the country. These officials were called ale conners or ale testers. Ale conner is the proper term, but ale testers, if today's language. London to this day actually has 4 appointed ale conners. The state every year. It's more of like an honour thing more than anything else. But there were some dodgy practices back then. Whenever ale started to go dodgy, because it did have a shelf life, they would do things to it to kind of mask the off taste. So they would do things like throw in eggs, nutmeg, butter, cinnamon, and cloves to mask the smell if the barrels of ale were going dodgy, which is typically characterized by a pongy smell and an off taste. This was so tavern owners could pass off crappy ale and not lose any money. However, ale conners, who were appointed by the Queen or King, would travel to many different taverns to test the quality of their ale. If the ale wasn't up to snuff, you got a fine. If you were lucky. Other punishments included being put into the stocks or being dunked into the river, which sometimes resulted in an early retirement from life. In order to test the ale, you think that a sip would be enough, but you'd be wrong. It was a common practice for ale conners who travelled between taverns wearing leather breeches. They would get a sample of ale and then go to a wooden bench. They would then pour a small puddle of ale onto the bench and sit in it. They would, they would sit for about half an hour, tasting the ale while they waited. And when the puddle dried up, the ale conner would stand up. And if the bench stuck to their breeches, the ale would be deemed bad and a fine would be issued.
Right. Okay. So is that what we're judging?
Yep.
The ale test.
The ale test, where they would sit on they would pour a puddle of ale onto a bench, sit in it with their leather breeches, and if they stood up and the bench stuck to their breeches, then the ale was bad. So true or false? Ale conner sat on a bench covered in ale to test it.
I've heard of an ale conner before. But did they get sticky britches? Like Chef's song?
I think there's still. I
So,
think you still
what-
have like semi, like they have the guys going around testing the Guinness and stuff in all the pubs. I think they're. I don't know if they're. I know they're called like testers and all today, but I think some of them do like the idea of calling themselves ale conners as well. Kind of like a,
This is quality testing, isn't it?
yeah.
So what would have been in the ale to make it sticky?
I don't really know.
Is it?
Um,
Because you mentioned a few things, but they seemed like herbs. They didn't seem that sticky.
well, it could
If
be.
you said they put honey in it, then yeah, okay.
Well, if the ale was going dodgy, then it would taste bad. So I reckon
Anything
eggs
sugary,
or
like
sugar. If they threw sugar or eggs into it, it would probably make it sticky, and that'd be a way of testing it. Or say maybe not bacteria, but like maybe some sort of it would just happen after a while. I don't really know the chemistry of ale.
Would an ale conner have something else to do while they were sitting in their
Yeah,
puddle?
they would sit and actually just taste it to see if it was okay.
After they were sitting in it?
No, while they were sitting in it. So they would get a thing of ale, they would pour a bit of it onto the seat, and then they would sit in it, and then they would drink the rest and be like, this tastes okay. Or tastes bad or whatever. But you think the taste test would be enough, but if they were chucking stuff into it to kind of mask that the ale was going off, then the bench test would kind of sort of a bag-up test.
Well, it definitely sounds possible. I mean, there are great examples in history of people basically masking drinks, to make them go further. I mean, you think that was bad what they were doing to ale. You don't want to know what they were doing to milk.
Ugh.
they're doing the milk.
You don't want to know.
I do want to know. Why I asked. I want to never be able to look at a pint of milk the same way again.
Well, I don't know. How would you add volume to white liquid?
Water.
Well, yeah, that would be the obvious thing to go for, I suppose.
Would they just like spunk it on?
Well, don't want to make accusations, but
That's a tall order.
Did they just put the milk batch into like the local tavern or something and say it'll buy you a drink if you whack one into it?
I think it's just a case of they fill it up with whatever they could. Water mostly, but it probably wasn't very clean water. It would have been water that they weren't going to drink, basically.
Right, back to the sticky britches.
Sure, I can believe that. I mean, they would have used all the tools at their disposal, and if they couldn't taste anything because they masked it with all that stuff, how else are they going to tell? So yeah, I'll believe that. It's true.
Sure, why not?
You're both saying true.
Yeah, sure.
All right, I can tell you it is false.
Oh,
It's
Oh,
it is actually it's a well-known myth that is spread around, but there's no actual evidence of that ever happening, and we don't really know why the myth was spread around. Just became an old wives' tale.
damn sticky britches.
well. So how do you think they did test it?
Tasted it.
Is that it?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
But then again, I'm sure the ale conner, it's kind of like the inspector when they come around to the restaurant. You kind of want to treat them extra nice. You probably give them your best batch of ale. Like, oh, taste our stuff. It's great, isn't it? Yeah. Cheers. That's us for another few months.
And then you put that one in the back, and then bring out the crap for everyone else.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, in that sticky situation, I guess time to end.
Yep.
Until the next,
If anybody listening has ever had some suspicious ale, please let us know.
we'll be sure not to care.
Absolutely.
Till next time.
Bye.
Bye.